let's talk about PvP in Dune Awakening. Now, as you guys know, endgame is going to be very PvP focused, i.e. the endgame area is a full PvP area, and there's supposed to be a lot more players there than there are in the actual PvE areas of the game. Now, that being said, there is some early game PvP, but it is super rare, and I tried really hard to find as much PvP as I possibly could, and it just didn't work. I got in all of 2 fights. One fight was the 1v1 from the last video that you guys saw, and it was like 20 seconds and it was done. And then the other fight was over even faster. I got jumped by 3 players and I didn't have a shield, and I died pretty much instantly to their shotgun. Thankfully though, a good friend of mine leveled up a character with me, and we just did a few duels to kind of get a feel for what PvP in Dune will actually feel like. Now, the first thing I want to say is that you must have a shield for PvP. If you don't have a shield, you will die to the ranged weapons pretty much instantly. Now, having the shield definitely is a big dynamic of how you do fights in this game. The whole fight I found, at least when I was fighting with my friend, is all around kind of trying to bait your opponent into dropping their shield by pulling out their gun, etc., and quickly getting on top of them with your melee weapon and trying to take advantage of that weak moment. You can just do an all-out gunfight because shooting your gun does drop the shield, but most people, as soon as they start to take too much damage, are just going to stop shooting, and that shield is really hard to chew through with a gun, especially if your opponent tries to get away from you. Now, I actually liked how this mechanic worked because it made the ranged weapons not feel too terribly overpowered, and you kind of had to get in melee range if you wanted to go for the killing blow on an opponent. And the mobility skills become super important for taking out an opponent because you need to get on top of them quickly when that shield is down to apply damage to their actual health bar. And this mechanic also meant that you didn't need to use a gun. The sword or the melee weapon was probably the most important tool for finishing an opponent off. Now keep in mind, we were playing classes that definitely get bonuses for going for melee weapons. Maybe if you go for the turret setup, you can actually take people out with the guns, but in general, I found the shields were a really strong counter to incoming bullets. Now this leads me to the next and probably most important part of PvP in this game, stamina management. It is so important that you do not let your stamina drop when your opponent is within melee range of you, because just like you see here, they will just tear you apart with their melee weapon, and you can't get out of it because you're basically stuck in that stun chain. Now, Funcom has confirmed that the stun chain is something that they didn't like and they aren't going to be having in the launch of the game. We're playing an older version of the game in the beta, and they said that they've patched this to function differently. So we don't know really what it's going to look like, but at least they said that the stun chain isn't going to be the big issue that it was. That being said, even with the stun chain in the game, when I was fighting with my friend, we both very quickly figured out that we need to manage our stamina, and the fight was basically about who can apply more pressure and get the other person to waste their stamina. Some of the things that I think I really didn't like about stamina management is that when you're attacking with your sword and when you're shooting with your gun, your stamina will not recharge. So you have to be super careful not to waste all of your stamina. And I feel like it led to a lot of moments where you're just kind of walking around and you don't want to do any attacking because you're just waiting for your stamina to come back. So again, they said they're going to change how the stamina management is working, and we'll see what we get when the game actually comes out, but I felt like we definitely needed better approaches for stamina management in general. And I feel like the heavier armors are going to be at a huge disadvantage when you get up close because they do not have a lot of dodges. So yeah, again, you know, I wish I could have gotten more fights to test this a little bit more, but just from my playing with my friend here, that's the impression that I got. And finally, one of the things that I really didn't like about PvP is that once you down an opponent, they can self-res themselves. And this doesn't seem like a big deal for something like a one-on-one because it's not, but if you want to do anything like 1vx PvP, this makes it pretty much impossible because you have to beat the opponent quite a few hits while they're down in order to fully kill them. And if you don't do that because another player is attacking you and you have to back up and manage your stamina, well, you guys can guess how difficult it will be to actually finish someone off. And of course, as you guys probably noticed in the gameplay here, there are quite a few bugs in combat, and it can be pretty jank with the tracking sometimes. It felt smooth, don't get me wrong, at moments, but it's definitely something that needs quite a bit of polish. So, in conclusion, I liked how the PvP felt, but there is definitely some big flaws to the system that Funcom needs to make some changes to, because especially when we see larger scale PvP, it is not going to feel very fun if you're even kind of outnumbered. There's definitely a lot of cool things that you can do in a fight, a lot of cool abilities that you can use, and it has a very unique feel to it in general. So yeah, if they can make those good changes, I think that there is a lot of potential for a very fun PvP game here. That being said, it's really up to Funcom, so we'll see what they do. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed finally seeing a little bit of Dune PvP combat from me. I'll be honest, I'm a big noob at it, so it was a learning experience for both me and my friend while we played. I would love to hear what you guys thought about PvP, and if you actually got into any PvP fights yourself, what your impressions were of the PvP combat. As always, have a great night, everybody, and I will see you next time.